Yep. Okay. Ooh. Ooh. It's really sensitive. Wow. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. About ready to get underway here. If we could beg your indulgence as we start off. First of all, I'd like to ask for a motion to come out of our executive session. That was, could I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we are out of executive session, and we are ready to begin our regular town council meeting. I know that we have to do a roll call, and you also, as the school committee, right? Okay, so Ms. Lavoie, if you could do a roll call for us.
Glenn Shibley. Greg Labasanier. Kerry McGee. Here. Karen Carlson. Here. Deborah Bacon. Here. Ed Wazika.
Here.
Nick Gorham.
Here.
Okay, do you want to do a roll call before the pledge?
Yes, please. I'd like to call our meeting to order for the school committee at, looks like 6:06. Roll call, please. Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Okay, thank you. And Mr. Spearman, if you would be so kind to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir. Here too? Either way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and if you will please remain standing while we do a brief invocation. Dear Lord, bless us in Coventry, this meeting tonight, the citizens of Coventry. We also ask for your prayers for the family of Deputy Sheriff Corporal Eugene Cole, who was shot and killed yesterday by a 29-year-old. It's the first killing of an officer in Maine in over 30 years. And this follows the shooting death of our Massachusetts police officer just 2 weeks ago, Yarmouth. And also a Dallas police officer recently, I believe a day or so ago, also was shot and killed. These officers paid the ultimate price. We ask for your guidance of their families, their blessings, and their support. Amen. Amen. And Mr. Spearman, evacuation plan, please. Thank you, sir. Okay. First order of, the next order of business under C is a resolution for discussion and or action regarding the appointment of our interim town manager, and regarding our resolution, which I believe we have on one of our sheets here. Mrs. Lavoie, would you care to read the resolution for us, please? And also, if you might, insert the name of Mr. Stephen Delaney on the individual, and I think you'll know the dates and month.
Be it resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Coventry hereby approves the appointment of an employment agreement for Stephen Delaney as interim town manager. Okay, as passed and adopted this 26th day of April 2018. Do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Yeah, Mr. President, I'll make that motion to approve the resolution.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you, ma'am. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous for the record. Mr. Delaney, you're over there. You switched on me. Congratulations. We thank you for picking up the baton and ready to run with it. For the audiences and our school committees and school administration's knowledge, Mr. Delaney we have Mr. Delaney planning to start on Monday morning, the 30th, last day of the month, and I will be present to do the swearing in at the town hall. So I don't know if you'd care to just say hello, or it's up to you. I know you have to run out of a meeting in Boston tonight.
I tend to be brief, so thank you very much. I'm looking forward to meeting everybody. Everybody's been wonderful so far, and the challenges here are not dissimilar to what I've seen elsewhere, so I'm looking forward to working with you and helping out. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, and again, we really feel that you do have all the qualifications, and we were fortunate within 2 weeks. And I speaking for myself, and I think the council and the town employees, to be able to find such a qualified candidate in such a short time, again, to hit the ground running. So thank you, sir. I think I've talked enough right now. Next on our agenda is D, the public hearing for discussion and/or action. And I think at this time, I will turn it over to Mr. Warzika, who is our acting town manager for a few more days. And if you could be so kind, sir, and to start us off.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. Normally I wouldn't even use this because I've got a big enough mouth. But first I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight. It's a beautiful night. You're here. What we love to see is engagement by everyone. This budget is the town manager's recommended budget for FY 18-19. Bob, can I have the first slide, please? The budget includes a 2.677940 levy revenue increase over last year's budget. So close to $2.7 million. And out of that, the town manager has recommended that we fund the school's request. They had an original request of 1.887, as you can see up on the board, and the town manager is recommending that we reduce that down to a 1.53 million, or about 81% of the original request. Some of that the other funds are going towards the municipal side, and out of that, we're looking at 62,000 towards the AFSCME contract, 2.5% increase for administrative staff, which would be a $74,000 pay increase for them. An increase in the police pension ARC of $150,000, an increase in the municipal pension ARC of another $24,000. Workers' compensation increase insurance went up for the town for $37,000. Fortunately, there was a decrease in medical expenses projected for next year, and that decrease is $141,000. A new sewer administrator we're asking for in this budget. It would be a 0.5 FTE for sewer management and a 0.5 FTE for assisting the finance director in analysis and reporting and everything that they have to do. We're also looking for a new part-time human resource analyst. There'd be no benefits involved, but the salary and fringe would be about $26,509 for that. All of that combines to come up with where the $2.6 million increase that we're asking for in the levy. If you look at this next slide on the budget, our current levy is $71,872,986. Our levy for the projected for FY18, if we take into account the fact that we have to now wipe out or remove the motor vehicle portion of that levy, which is nearly $5 million. So that in turn reduces our starting levy, where we work from, down to $66,948,000. So that $5 million increase, the 4% that we're asking for, only works off the $66 million and not the $71 million. That's where you come up with the $2.677 million, which is a 4% increase in the levy, but it equates down to a 3.06% increase on the tax rate for all three, for residential, tangible, and commercial. And what that equates to for the average homeowner, your current per $1,000 of tax evaluation is $20.97.7, and the projected increase would be $21 and nearly 62 cents. And that's for residential and tangible. The commercial rate, which is currently pegged at $25.29, would be looking at an increase to $26.06. And then the motor vehicle tax, which is fixed, is $18.75, and that'll remain the same because those are frozen by state law. If you look at this next slide, this is the levy increase, and it's just showing a percentage of what's going to where. Out of the 2.6 million, 57% or 1.5 million is going towards the schools, and 43%, 1.1, is going on to the municipal side. We did a breakdown on where does the municipal money go, what's it going towards. 38% of our piece goes to salaries, and another 28% goes towards benefits, pension, and all of that. Our operating expenses actually amount to about 19% of the total budget. So that's all the equipment, all of the things that we use and buy during the course of the year. You'll see the town's debt service is $2.4 million, nearly $2.4 million. So that's a little bit more where that's going, or 7% of our budget. And then the school debt service, which the town also takes care of, is about 8% of the budget at nearly $2.7 million. If you look here, this is a breakdown on the Sewer Enterprise Fund. And with this one, because our finance director, Bob Tebow, has been doing most of the work on this, I'm going to let Bob explain what this slide is showing.
Okay. The first column states FY19 as of 4/26/18, and we have revenues estimated for FY19 of $2.3 million, and expenses estimated at $2.9 million for a deficit position of $570,328 to the negative. The expenses assume that we're going to return approximately $1.2 million of our 2013A bond money back to the infrastructure bank. And the line item under that is the conduit bond debt service, which we're in the process of refinancing. Century Bank has authorized the refinancing, which is 3 years deferred principal. It'll be an interest-only payment pending Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank approval. The line in yellow is West Warwick debt service. Currently, we pay we're scheduled to pay $682,301 to West Warwick for the debt service we owe them. Discussion I had before the town council at the public session on Monday night, I talked about the discussions we've had with Steve Massaroni, who's our financial analyst who sells our bonds for us, and the Auditor General, Department of Municipal Finance, and everyone agrees that moving some of the debt to the general fund is one of the solutions that they feel needs to occur. The solicitor and the bond counsel had determined that the West Warwick debt and the conduit bond debt would be eligible to move over to the general fund with council approval. Now, the discussion also went on to indicate that we've talked to DMF and we've talked to the Auditor General's office, and the only way, since the manager's recommended budget's maxed out at 4%, that there would have to be a request made to the state to, as an example, increase the budget to 5% and then move some of that debt over. So that's assuming that were to happen. You can see in the second column there where the West Warwick debt service, which is highlighted in yellow, instead of paying $682,000 out of the sewer fund, the debt service payment out of the sewer fund would be reduced to just under $20,000. Again, this is something that it's still in the discussion phase. It still needs state approval. The Auditor General had asked that we bring this to the council and the public as one of the recommendations. The Citron report and the Auditor General's report are still being worked on, but that's something they felt they wanted us to get out to the council and the public as soon as possible. So that's why I presented it Monday night, and that's why I'm stating it again here.
Thank you, sir. Next on our list, we have the capital improvement budget, which these are the requests from the various departments throughout the town, what they'd like to see for the long-term improvements in those different departments. And as you can see, for next year, we've got requests of about $3.5 million. Public Works is the largest one of these at nearly $2 million. Police, Animal Control, Information Technology, Parks and Rec. We are not funding any of these requests this year, but under state law, we're obligated to do a 5-year projection of all of those capital improvements. So even though we've got these, there's nothing at all that's going to be funded out of this current fiscal year, this coming fiscal year. Once we get done, once the school does their presentation, we're going to also do it'll be open, it's an open meeting, and you'll be able to ask your questions and anything that pertaining to any of the topics on the budget. Also, if you see me up there with earbuds in and looking at my phone, please don't think I'm being rude or disrespectful. I'm also monitoring the system to make sure it goes live streaming out there. So I'm running 2 hats tonight. So that's why I'm doing it.
Is this working? Yes. Good opportunity for me while they're getting our PowerPoint up, because I know this is Mr. Tebow's last meeting tonight, last public meeting, and on behalf of the school committee, on behalf of the school administration, and hopefully on behalf of the community, I just want to thank you. One of the things that I've tried to do as an employee for the community and as the superintendent of schools is really try to focus on building positive working relationships with the council, with the municipal departments. We couldn't do any of the work that we do without the police, the Department of Public Works, the library, recreation, human services, all the departments, the fire. And for me, what's really important is about trust and loyalty. And I have to say, Mr. Tebow, you are one of the most loyal, trustworthy individuals I've ever met. I know I speak for Sarah and myself. Just the challenges that we face on a daily basis, and to have you to support us. And, I'm so happy for you, and this has been your lifelong dream to get back into higher ed. But it's a sad day I can speak for us. And I just want to thank you. So thank you very much. Okay. So this is our proposed budget for 2018-2019. I'm just going to start off by saying that while the town manager had recommended $1.5 million, we are going forward requesting, and you'll see them over our $1.8 million. And I try to be positive. When I first got here, there was a lot of negativity between the municipal side, the school side. Just a lot of negativity in the community, and we've tried to highlight the positives. I think we've tried to provide stability, and unfortunately tonight that has to change in terms of not the stability, not working together, but in terms of I need to highlight some real serious scenarios that we've been articulating. Mr. Tebow can vouch on this. Since I've been here, we've known that we were going to be faced with a funding cliff. And it hit us a little bit earlier. We lost over $800,000 in aid last year. Next year's budget, we have another $400,000 in state aid that we're losing, and we haven't received any numbers on federal aid. And so I'm not going to tell you all the wonderful things that we're going to do this year. Last year, we asked for some increases in personnel. We also said these are all the wonderful things we're going to be doing without an increase. And tonight, I'm going to tell you what this budget we're facing, even if we were to receive the 1.8, which we hope that the council will support and the taxpayers will support. But even if we receive that, we still have to cut $1 million. Can you go to the...
I've got it on the slide, but it's not showing up on the screen.
All right. Well, I can start by just raising the question. And we did this when I started the budget process with the committee. It was talking about the quality of education that what is the quality of education that Coventry wants for their community, for their students, for their youth? Are they willing to support educational program and objectives that are in the best interest of our students, of our community? And our goal always is to look at, we've tried to be, and I say this to the public, if we can do something else to be more transparent in our budget process, we're still struggling trying to engage. I honestly thought that this auditorium would be packed tonight, and I thought that we might have to move it someplace. And I see most of the individuals, I appreciate all those community members that are here, but most of the individuals I see here are employees. And for me, I have to say that's disheartening. I know this is being streamed live, so I'm hoping that many people are watching it. But we try to make sure that we were going to ensure minimal impact to students based on significant state education aid reductions in FY18 and FY19. So despite this, our goal is still to move forward and become the best school district we can be. But I'm going to tell you, this is extremely challenging. And it's going to impact everybody. There's nobody that it's not going to impact, and I have to be clear about that. And we're at that crossroads, and if we don't do something drastic, this is going to be the start of the dismantling of public schools in Coventry. And this is not a scare tactic. This is the truth based on what you're going to hear it's going to be taking place this year, even if we get the $1.8 million. We also are continuing to try to enhance student opportunities by strategically maximizing expenditures. We still are moving forward with pathways at the high school. Last year, we've more than doubled our AP classes. We've increased other programs and opportunities. We've funded coaching positions that we needed to fund for legal reasons. We've still supported our arts, like I said, our athletics, because those are programs that, so for some students, it's the only reason they come to school. And we're trying to do the best we can to align our staff with student needs. But it's going to be challenging this year. So this is our current reality. So we're going to, when I talk about staff, this is across the board. This isn't just teachers. This is across the board. But we're going to reduce staffing by a minimum of 22 positions. That's significant. That's significant. And if we don't get the 1.8, if we have to cut another $300,000, I do not know how we're going to do that without significantly hurting population. We're going to increase class size to maximum in several areas. The middle school's already at max. We've met and had some preliminary conversations with the high school, and we see those classes many of those classes can be max. And the same can happen at the elementary school, and we also can lose some supports that we desperately need. There'll be fewer options for students at the high school. We may not be able to run classes that don't have a significant number of students, even though students want them, and they may be needed for their career goals. We're going to have to make some tough decisions. We have minimal amounts of funds for supplies, materials, and additional resources. One of the things that always comes up, and you'll see a little bit later on our slide, people like to highlight that a large percentage of our budget goes into salaries and benefits. Well, there's a couple reasons to that. One is we're in the people business. With all the stuff that's going on in the world today, what about in Toronto? Remember, just a couple days ago, right? This is the world we live in. The van goes down a sidewalk and injures 25 and kills 10 individuals, right? Every single parent, every single day, every teacher worries about, is something going to happen in our schools, right? The most important resource, our first responders will be the police and fire, but the real heroes are going to be those people inside the buildings every single day. But the key to the 84% is that when you look at our budget, we don't have money in there for capital. We don't have money in there for equipment. We don't have a lot of money for supplies. So our money's in our people because that's what we have. There's no cushion. We have no contingency funds. If a child comes into our district and has significant needs, special education student, we have a legal obligation and a moral obligation to address their needs. We will fund that, and we will do what that child needs. But that money is going to come from someplace else, which means cuts to other programs. We do not have any contingency. And when I went back and looked for the last 7 years, I didn't go back further than 7 years, we have not had capital requests funded. 0. And I don't expect this to be improved overnight, but we need to start having conversations. And I've said to the council, we need to get together and figure out a plan and articulate to the community so over long term, this community sees that we're investing not only in our schools. You know, fortunately, the bond on the police station passed, and we fully supported that. But we have other buildings. I look at the rec center. I look at a lot of the community buildings. This is a community issue. Next slide, please. So, my next slide is one of Ms. Carlson's favorite. It's a pie chart. And what? Oh, is the next slide? I'm sorry. All right. Next slide's not the pie chart. All the figures. You know you're taking away my thunder here.
Sorry, sir. You're looking at the plan here.
Yes. I said all those nice things about you, Ed, earlier. So when the next slide does pop up, though, it's going to show you how do we get to that 1.8 million eventually. Next slide, it's in 3 slides.
You want the pie chart?
That's a wrong presentation, but I'm going to take. All right. Okay, so this is a summary of a general fund budget. So I'm just going to go over, it's hard to see, but this year in terms of our local appropriations, we're asking for $1,887,860. Our state aid has been reduced by $427,358. Now we were expecting a $715,000 decrease in state aid, but thanks to people in our school department really working diligently under Dr. Lynn Burke to really look at our numbers and make sure that we are able to capture all of our students that are free and reduced and actually make sure that all of our students are accounted for. We found that we actually are having an increase of over 130 students, even despite that the population was supposed to decrease through 2023. So between 2000 and FY217 and FY219, there's been an increase of 130 students, which I think is significant because it shows a shift in the trend. Our tuitions have increased by $165,250. Our Medicaid, we budgeted $730,000, but there's been a decrease in about $15,209. Use of fund balance was reduced by $76,190. And there's other $3,000 for total revenues of $1,537,353. And in expenditures, Based on what I spoke about when we said we have to reduce by at least 22 positions, we expect the salaries to go down $145,000 to $43,933,387. Our employee benefits will have an increase of $512,913. Our purchase services, an increase of $679,786. And a lot of those purchase services are our tuition costs. Supplies and materials, an increase of $302,953. Furniture and equipment, we're budgeted $169,618. We tried to honor the furniture requests from our principals. If you walk in our schools, and we will be doing tours, over the next couple of months, you'll see that we have furniture that's even from the 70s, the 80s. We haven't replaced furniture in years. There may be a couple of grants. I've gone into a couple of classrooms at the high school that have tables. We have donations. In one of the elementary schools, Hopkins Hill, there's a whole classroom with donated furniture. So $169,000 is just a drop in the bucket to our needs. And fees and dues of $17,190. Next slide, please. So this is the pie chart. So you see the salaries and benefits. But I think what's important is in the reason it's a high percentage, a couple of things. So I don't know the exact percentage in the town side, but we don't have capital in this, right? And if you see the very minuscule part, furniture, equipment, supplies, materials, we have very little in terms of equipment for a district this size. We're the 7th largest district in the state. I think what's also important to note is that our per pupil expenditure, which is you take our total budget divided by the number of students, and I think this is significant. And so when people want to criticize what we do with what we have, we are 29th in the state for public schools in expenditure. It's $15,320. That puts us at 29th for public schools. And I think that's significant. Next slide, please. So this is how we get to the $1.8 million. So in revenue, we're projecting a $427,000 reduction in state aid. A Medicaid is going to decrease by $15,209. Use of fund balance. We've created many structural deficits in the budgeting for Coventry Public Schools over the last several years. There's been use of the tune of about $1.2 million of encumbered monies out of our account with WB Health that just created a structural deficit. We're trying not to do that moving forward. We're trying to rectify and be extremely transparent. And we have an increase of $168,250 for a total decrease in revenue of $350,507. If you look at our expenditures, there's a decrease in salaries based on what we project in terms of reducing our staffing of $145,107. Our benefits increase of $512,913. Purchase services an increase of $679,786. Our supplies $302,953. Our capital, which is really the furniture, $169,618. And dues and fees of $17,190. For a total of $1,887,860. So I kept this slide up here just to show that the number in terms of cuts that we projected that we need to make. And I think what's crucial, this is based on getting the $1,887,860. If we don't get that, and I know the town manager is not here, but when Mr. Tebow, I think he can vouch, we had a conversation. I was adamant about the recommendation. Last year we talked about that we were going to need the support from the community. We've talked about it for 2 years. When Mr. Convery was here, we had that conversation. We projected in our 3-year projections. And I felt that, it was just, my expectation was that they would put forward, he would support us. And again, I know he's not here, and I appreciate the support that we did receive. But if we don't get the 1.887, I don't know what we're going to do. We're going to have to make some drastic cuts that are definitely going to impact programs. We haven't even been able to figure. We're still struggling. We're still meeting in the next couple of days. I have a meeting tomorrow. We'll be meeting Monday and Wednesday to make these decisions so we can notify people. So this is our reality. So last slide. And again, we need to continue to work with all of the departments in the municipality. I definitely hope that we continue to have a good working relationship with the council. But this is our reality. If you look at FY215, we received a 0% increase, right? And when we talk about this funding cliff, over the last 7 years, the Department of Ed had identified 13 communities, and they said, you know, these communities had been underfunded with state aid. And they determined that Coventry, I don't have the exact number, but I think it was somewhere between $4 and $5 million that we were underfunded. And close, given a ballpark. But what they did is over a period of 7 years, they were going to give us approximately about $700,000 a year in average for 7 years to get us up to where that total should have been 7 years prior. But the intent was never for the town not to continue to support us. And I know there's a lot of issues going on, and you know, we experience that on a daily basis. But what happened is our base never increased. And so we got a 0% increase in FY215. We had a 0.41% increase in FY16 for $175,000. In FY217, we had the $1.2 million, which for a 2.82% increase. But what's crucial about that is we were the last district to have all-day K. If we did not get funded for all-day K, we would have lost a significant amount of our state aid. And while I'm very thankful for the council and the community to give us that money, we shouldn't be the last. Like you know, it's a double-edged sword. Like I appreciate it, but we're starting to see the gains that our students that had a half-day K, now that they have a full-day K. We have, you know, one of our kindergarten teachers. We're seeing incredible gains. And it's sad that we were the last community to implement all-day K. And like I said, we're definitely seeing the gains of it now. And then in FY 2018, which was this year's budget, during the budget process, when we had already approved our budget, we found out that we lost between state aid and federal aid $800,000. We had asked for $367,000. Originally, the manager was going to give us $200,000, and then we negotiated that he'd give us $300,000, I think, and $1,000. We came forward and we asked for an additional $50,000. We were still asking for the $367,000. Cranston and East Providence, they lost a significant amount of money. They went to their towns or cities, and those cities funded their loss. We asked for an additional $50,000. What we were able to get was the original $367,000. And I'm appreciative for the council giving us that. But that was 0.84%. Like I said, I know that we are the largest consumer of tax dollars. But there's nothing more precious in any community. And I pray to God that our youth today are the solution, because those of us that seem to be running the country and running things, we're struggling if you look at the state that our country's in. And this is my own opinion. But we need to invest in our youth. We need to believe. And there's a lot of people that I talk to who don't have kids in school, or their children have grown up, or their grandparents, and they raise their kids. But I look at it as when they were in school, when their children were in school, it was the generations before them that paved the way. And that's what we're asking for this community. We're at a critical crossroads. And I'm not telling you what to do. You make your own choice. But what I am going to tell you is that we are at such a pivotal point. Because if we do not support the education, even if we get supported with what we're asking, we're still cutting $1 million. And we need to start working more collaboratively to figure out how we're going to move forward. So I appreciate the opportunity to present to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Levis, for your report on the school administration and school department side. At this time, Mr. Warzika, do you have any other additional information that you'd like to convey, or Mr. Tebow at this time? I know we will certainly thank you as well, Mr. Tebow. I didn't mean to not thank you at the beginning, and I think Mr. Levis beat me to the punch, but obviously you've done a fabulous job, and I still haven't heard exactly where you're going, but I sure know it's going to be a good move for you. I got a call from Mr. Wagan yesterday, and just wanted to know how things were going, and he mentioned that he knew we were leaving, and I said, yeah, he's going back to the, I guess you were there at URI for what, over 10 years? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And he spoke very highly of you, so.
Thank
And
you,
I
sir.
concurred with him, and a fraternity brother of mine going way back, but that said, Mr. Warzika, do you have anything else to convey before we?
Not at this time.
All right.
We're available, whatever questions are going to be asked. And,
All right, let me ask, thank you. Any members of the council, would you like to make any comments or statements at this time before we open it up to the public and the school committee as well? I invite any comments as well on our two committees or councils at this time, and if not, I will. And Mr. Warzika, are we going to, individuals that want to talk, or we're going to name and address, and we're taking the record over there? Okay.
No, we have a podium.
Okay, the podium's right there. Thank you. I can't really miss it, but I'm sure it's on. All right. Then, with that invitation on both sides and seeing no hands, we'd like to open it up then for individuals that would like to come forward and make their comments regarding what we have just seen on the municipal side and on the school side. Are you, ma'am, coming down? Okay, come on forward then. And we just simply ask that the name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Amanda Aldana, and I live at 521 Reed Schoolhouse Road, and this is my son, Noah Aldana. So we have lived in this community for 7 years, and I have children at Washington Oak and Allen Feinstein Middle School. I feel that school and education is such an important thing here that we have to really support our school. It's incredibly important. Things are going to go downhill fast if we don't give them the money that they need, essentially. When you start making small cuts, even after school programs, you know, the kids suffer. And you know, my son is in the yearbook committee. We had Falcon Pride last year, and these are things that are excellent. They go out, the Falcon Pride itself, they go out into the community and they visit nursing homes and they do little small projects, and it's all about coming together in the community and seeing what they can do to help others in the community, and that's what that club was. Unfortunately, they didn't have the resources this year, so they had to cancel that club. Granted, they have many other ones, but the more we have to cut back, the more educators we lose, the more our kids suffer. And then eventually, people are going to move out of Coventry because the schools aren't going to be up to the standards that they need to be at. So I would just encourage everybody to really support education, support the kids. They're our future, and we really need to get behind the budget, I think, and in supporting them. And that's all we have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for coming down and making the comments, and we certainly understand the value of education. Thank you. Anyone else? Next? Okay. Yes, sir. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Frank Palin, 47 Breezy Lake Drive. It's a little difficult to wrap my head around the budget, seeing it for the first time this evening, but I will be looking at it. I just have a couple of questions, and it's really specifically at the sewers, because I see the increase. Is it a 4% increase we're asking for, or is it more?
Mr. Debo.
The town manager's recommended budget is a 4% increase. Since the town manager's recommended budget was issued in March, the town has met with the Department of the Auditor General, Department of Municipal Finance, and others, and one of their recommendations is to possibly, if the town has an appetite to do it, is to go up to 5% on the levy with state approval, and that would generate an additional $650,000, at which point some of the debt service that's on the sewer fund could be moved off onto the general fund.
Okay, the next question, it has to do with the sewers, because I think it's an albatross hanging around everybody in this room's neck. I just see some numbers here about a structural deficit of $800,000 and a debt to the general fund of $2.5 million. Of the capacity that we are using versus what we are paying West Warwick, what is the difference?
We are using 10% of our existing capacity with West Warwick.
Are we paying for 100%?
The debt service that we're currently paying West Warwick accounts for the fact that we have 23% of the plant. We're utilizing we have ownership, so to speak, of 23.5% of the plant, but we're using maybe 2.3. We're using 10% of our capacity, but paying for the debt that's equivalent to 23% of ownership.
So does that mean that we're paying $2.5 million annually, and we're only using 250,000?
To West Warwick?
To West Warwick, yes.
Hold on. $682,301 is what we will owe West Warwick.
And how much are we receiving in receipts in the town for the sewer use?
Sewer use, we are receiving $1.1 million and $1 million in assessment. So it's $2.1 million between sewer use and assessment.
Okay, so there's a $2.1 million difference. Is that correct? I just want to be sure I've got it because I'm just seeing this for the first time.
Okay. As we sit here right now, the projected revenues are $2.3 million. The projected expenses are $2.9 million.
Okay, so is that's $800,000.
$570,000.
$570,000 that's being spread out town-wide. So for all intensive purposes, every property owner in this town is getting a sewer tax.
In theory, I mean, it's not
in theory. I know it doesn't
Yes, sir.
technically say that, but the next question I have, and really this is for the council and possibly even Mr. Gorham, has anybody sat down, well, it's going to end up lawyer to lawyer, I'm sure, sat down with West Warwick about renegotiating that contract?
I would say that everything is on the table, including the agreement with West Warwick, because to address the sewer system, I think you have to look at everything, and I know that that's being looked at. The contract does have it has a termination clause, and you know it's right in the contract. So.
The reason I ask it, I just received a copy of the contract 2 hours ago, and I haven't had a chance to review it yet.
The intermunicipal agreement with West Warwick, yeah. There are three.
It's 80 pages long, and I just didn't have a chance to read it before I got here. West Warwick is teetering. I think everybody knows that, and I think in a lot of ways, when I see what is taking place today with the school department that probably needs more money, I think the town probably needs more money. That's why I say the sewer problem is an albatross around our neck, especially when we're using 10% of capacity and paying for 100% capacity. I'm just wondering if maybe it's time to play a little bit of hardball with West Warwick and say, you will give us a better deal, or we're not going to pay you at all, and we'll terminate you, because the Department of Health will never let West Warwick stop the service from taking place, but it's just a bargaining chip, and if it's played straight and just we're not budging, I'm wondering how you will make out. I know I've done it with our fire district. with negotiations. I didn't bend, and I ended up winning. And there are other things with the fire hydrants and the streetlights, for example, that we are in the process of still doing that. I just wonder if it's not a possibility, because we have to find more money in this town without raising taxes, so that the things that the school needs and the things that the town needs can be done. And I am just respectfully asking that be put on the table, and it may already be there.
I think it's on the table.
Okay.
The termination clause is rather draconian. It just says that if the town can terminate, but if it terminates, it has to bring its bills current, which the town is, I believe it's current anyway, on its bills with West Warwick, number one. And then number two, you are relegated, the town of Coventry, if it terminates, is relegated to the capacity that it has right now. It can add no more users. That's kind of a problem. But I agree with you. I wouldn't call it a hardball. I would just say that, you know, in the right context, everything is negotiable.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's really what I wanted to find out. Thank you very much.
Thank
to
you,
everybody.
sir. Anyone else would like to come up and speak? Yes, ma'am. Can they walk through? Yeah. All right, so it's if it's closer coming down, you choose the direct.
Oh, okay. Hello, my name's Raina Shaw. I live at 13 Sweetwater Drive, and I would like to voice my support for the school. I have 2 adult children who graduated from Coventry High School a few years ago. One is going to be graduating in May from URI. Another son is a sophomore at URI, and we have 2 children that attend Washington Oak Elementary, and we're really concerned moving forward with the state of the schools. Are they going to have, our younger children going to have the same types of benefits as they move through the middle school and the high school that our older children have had? And we really need to do something to support the education and to help the schools move forward, make capital improvements, and still provide the technology and the classes that are going to make our youth productive members of society that are competitive. Mr. Liv mentioned that it's previous generations that paved the way so that they would have their opportunity, our opportunity, your opportunity for a good education. As we get older, I think we all want competent caregivers. And if we don't have good education, what kind of competent caregivers are we going to have if we haven't educated our youth? So we will all end up suffering in that respect as well, and not just in terms of the care, but in terms of the services, financial, legal systems. If you don't have educated youth and you don't invest in those resources, all of that is eventually going to go downhill. And please consider that as you move forward in finding ways to support the budget for the school. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And anyone else would like to come forward? Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. Kelly Arnakis, 9 Sugar Maple Drive. I too rise in support of the schools. I have a son who attends Washington Oak Elementary, and I'm guardian of a 9th grader who attends the high school. Unfortunately, I also have a dual capacity of being an employee of the district, so I can see what's being done in the schools and what we've lacked over the years. Whether you're a student who needs remedial assistance, special education services, or you're that student who is gifted and talented, in my 23-year career at Coventry High School and within the public schools, all we have done for the past 10 is cut programs. So for our students who excel, there is no longer, for the past decade, a gifted and talented program at the elementaries or the middle school. That's a detriment. State law requires services to special education students, so we're meeting the minimum requirements for that segment of student, but we're not meeting any requirements for an additional set of students. And then all of our students in the center. The budget was presented that they're going to cut, if you give the 1.8 million, they're going to cut 22 jobs. So after this happens, then you're going to get angry because you're going to find out what's going to be cut. I'm already angry. Again, 2 kids in the school system. Classes being maxed out may not sound like a big deal, but the kids don't get the individual attention. The Capitol, I wish you could see the desks that I have to force my high school students to sit at. They're disgusting. They're aged, they're archaic, they have deep cuts in them where kids with white shirts will leave with their clothes dirty, no matter how many times I personally wash them, because we don't have the custodians to wash them. It's just a sad state. We live in a relatively affluent community. I know in my own neighborhood, parents are really banding together and getting very upset, but I just think it's something we all have to look at. This is the education. And yes, you do have to pay teachers to be in front of kids. If you could just put a book in front of a kid and say, go learn, that'd be great, but you can't take your own child and say, go learn your manners without me. Go be a productive citizen without me. Be kind to your friends without me. You need that adult to guide that child. So whether it's academically, socially, or emotionally, that's our job. I ask that you help us do our job. I ask that you help my children, and please fund the school budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that would like to come forward and public comment regarding our upcoming budget? Yes, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Gunnup. I live at 77 Wood Cove Drive. I'm the parent to 2 students at Ellen Shawn Fine Middle School who also attended Washington Oak. I'm also the president of the Coventry PTA Council. I was blessed to grow up in Coventry and actually went to school in this very building many moons ago for 3 years. My concern is about the impact on the students. So far, I think my children have been, as I was blessed to go to school here, and I've been quite pleased with the experience they've had thus far, but concerned about the expected impacts in regards to the budget cuts. So asking for the town's support in regards to the budget, and also my question is, what are the next steps in regards to the budget?
The next steps would be we have continuation on with council meetings. I believe it's the 7th, May 7th. We'll finally discuss what we think will be put forward as far as the total budget goes. And then after that, it'll be basically go to the financial town meeting, which will be the second Tuesday in June. Is that the 12th or 14th? The 14th. Where, again, people will have a say on the total budget, the tax increase, and whether they want to make additional changes either up or down from what the council recommends. That will be the time. And within, I believe it's approximately 200,000, it can be adjusted. Other than that, it goes to all-day referendum, which would not be, I don't think would be a good thing, because besides extra costs, the council will do the best they can and make a good decision as to what we can afford in the town. That's why we've been elected, and we understand all the causes, and basically, we'd like to fund all departments as best we can. Just if, as the former manager has recommended, to increase any money, let's say, to the school, then all the other departments will have to take a reduction just to stay within that amount. Is that fairly correct, Mr. Tebow? If I can ask you to confirm that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The council will adopt the budget on May 7th to send to the financial town meeting, and at the financial town meeting, those in attendance can vote on the budget, make amendments to it, and ultimately will approve the budget and the tax rate.
Okay, and thank you. Mr. McGee, I think, has at least a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the schools need the budget. We're in a definite mess right now with the finances. I guess this question maybe goes to Mr. Tebow, because right now, with the manager's requested budget at $1.5 million to the schools, that puts us at the 4% cap. How much more, if we gave them the 1.8, would that put us over the 4% cap?
About 0.5%.
about 0.5% more.
Approximately, yeah.
Besides what the Auditor General suggested that we do with the sewer fund money.
Yes, sir.
So we would be requesting over 5% in order to,
So-
or have drastic cuts in every other department to make it meet for the school. I mean, you just got to understand the mess we're in. We have so many, I mean, same thing as our DPW, our Parks and Rec. None of them can afford cuts right now. I understand, and I understand how critical the schools are. If I had my way, I'd give you all the money you need, because I understand you need it, but we have 35,000 voters and, people in town and taxpayers that we have to be concerned about. We're in some real tough decisions to make. But I'm sorry, I mean, could you finish? You said?
I was done, sir.
Okay, all right. So we'd be over 5% we would have to ask for if we went stuck with the current manager's budget and gave the schools the 1.8.
There's also a specific set of criteria that we need to meet to be able to actually, to have them approve going over that 4%. So, I mean, just because we ask for it doesn't mean we would get it.
Right.
We have to meet a certain set of benchmarks.
So this potentially be cutting percentages out of every other department in town also in order for us to meet the 4% cut. I mean, that's just the reality of it. I mean, everybody would have to share with even more of a cut just to make it onto the 4% cut. Because I'm not inclined to go over the 5% cut or to go over the 4% increase. It's really difficult for these taxpayers. I mean, every year we have to raise taxes for all different reasons, and we're in some tough decisions to make here. And I understand the schools need it, and I understand the whole town hasn't had capital for years. I don't have the answer. I really don't. Taxing our way is not the way to do it. It's tax, the residents in this town, to raise enough money. We need to be more creative, and we haven't done that. We need to. So,
okay.
So if I could just clarify, the
Okay.
2 dates to keep in mind in regards to looking at the budget would be May 7th and June 14th for upcoming dates.
Second Tuesday of June.
June
12th.
12th.
Oh, 12th. That's what I thought, but I wasn't positive. I figured I'd ask. The 12th, the second Tuesday of June,
Okay, thank you for your time.
for
Have a
your
good
questions. Else? Anyone else want to make a comment? Any? Yes? Okay. Oh, well, all right. Were you coming down first? All right, and we can go right back. Yeah. Good evening.
Good evening. Michelle Tugas, 17 Anthony Street. First, I apologize my ignorance because I'm not a financial person. So I just printed out what the budget was, and I don't know as far as, increase for administrative staff. Is that an annual thing that staff end up getting an increase? Or has there been? Okay.
Are you speaking about the rate,
Well, I'm just asking about, a proposed 2.5 increase for administrative staff. So I didn't know if every year that staff ended up getting an increase.
No, that actually would be the first time in two years that they've received, and it's been, they've received 1% pay increase over the last 3 years, 4 years.
I understand. I work in the DD department, and I've received a 3% raise in about 7 years. So I totally understand that. And that's why I'm asking questions, so I can be informed. Even as far as the increase in the municipal pension plan, is that something every year? I don't know what's required by law, if it's required by contract. So I was just looking for information on that.
There's an arc that has to be met by law, and we have to make 100% of that payment to maintain.
Okay, and obviously with the same thing with the workman's comp.
That's an insurance, and yes,
Right.
that goes up, and we have no control over that.
So it seems like a lot of it you don't have any control in.
A lot of these we don't.
And I've agreed with the other people that have come. I grew up in Coventry. I didn't graduate in Coventry, but I did most of my school years. My son did graduate from Coventry High School, and I'm definitely for support for the schools kind of getting everything that they need. And my only other comment is the 2 new positions. I understand it seems like it would help both pieces, but is this a time that the town really needs to create 2 new positions? So I would ask, if everything else were required by law, I would suggest to really look at that 2 new positions and maybe put a hold on it for now. If there's any way that can end up going back towards the school to help out. I don't want a 3% increase. I get it. I don't think anybody does. But if it's to go to the schools to help the children and the teachers and do their job, I'd be for it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am? Good evening.
Good evening, Nancy Sullivan, 6 White Oak Court. In regards to the FTM, my request is on the voting procedures. I would really like to see a ballot vote. I think the days of standing up for votes and being counted kind of belong when you're selecting the class crossing guard in 3rd grade. Raising your hands and stuff like that. I think that this should be much more professional since you're asking for a whole lot of money, that it also be accurate, and I think the voting ballots would give us that assurance.
Thank you. We can look into it for sure. Anyone else for a question? Comments? Anything at all? School committee? Any final words?
I would just like to ask the council to please support the school's budget's proposal of 1.87. If that doesn't happen, I think we will suffer greatly. I think this is a fair budget, and I really don't know what else to say except that I really truly believe that we need the money. And so I would hope that you will reconsider the manager's recommendation of the 1.5 and fully fund us. My second comment is that the fact that we've lost state aid over the last couple of years is indicative of the fact that Coventry is becoming more affluent. And I just want the citizens of this town to realize that when the state share that they tell Coventry that we have to pay goes down and they make us pay more, that means that our properties have gone up and our median salaries have gone up. Even though some people don't feel that in this town, that's what the census says. And so not only did we not fund schools when we were getting the extra money from the state appropriately, now we're at a place where we're not even getting the extra, we didn't even get the extra aid because the state is saying we can afford more. So there were many years that I've sat on this committee where I think we were fairly taxed as a community. How you split that money up, was the community's decision, but we were fairly taxing ourselves. As of right now, with the funding formula, we're required to pay more, and so I just want you to consider that, the fact that we've lost aid over the last couple of years, to the tune of $1.2 million? It's a lot of money.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Take your time.
Mr. President, while he's coming up there, can I ask Mrs. Chairman of the school committee, Chairwoman, to express to the taxpayers what the Census Bureau calls a median income to the town of Coventry?
In Coventry, it's $98,000. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it something different? Let Sarah.
Mrs. Mangiarelli, why don't you explain that question or the answer for the audience and us? And I think we know, but go ahead.
Okay, so the factor that's playing into the funding formula, the Rhode Island median family income for the 2015 census, which is the most current, the Rhode Island income was $74,045. The 2015 median family income in Coventry was $88,556, which is 19.6% higher than the state, which is playing into our funding formula.
Okay, Mr. Levis. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson. I guess it's your turn.
Ken Jackson,
Good evening.
2799 Hockney Hill Road. Good evening. Let's straighten something out, please. The population of students in our schools has dropped. We are at about 4,000, 4,663 students yesterday. Also, I spoke to the people at Department of Education. They said one of the big factors this year was the reval last year. That is an enormous factor. Next year, they may give more money to Coventry. It's a moving target. My suggestion is you give it one time every year, plus or minus this aid. One other thing, Mr. Levis, stop threatening of our children's programs. I know junior ROTC you would like to get rid of, but that is a vocation. These kids are the leaders in that school. They have taken the New England's year after year after year. So let's stop the threatening. I think the administration raise is a disgrace. You know, there's need, want, and just outright piggery. $74,000. If you want to spend that money, why don't you buy some and repair your school? Let me say one more thing. Your Chromebook program, when you bought them, you bought 40 units before you approved purchases. You violated the town ordinance, the charter. You did everything. Plus, the state could nail you for not going to one of their vendors. You have spent on those Chromebooks over $330,000 in repair purchases. I don't know about anybody else, but would you throw $330,000, and actually it's more than that, because I don't have year 16, in 1 year was $74,000. To repair these things, scrap them. And if the new HPs are not that good, scrap them again. Enough is enough. You know, you think everybody's earning $78,000 out there? Let me tell you something. All the Social Security people aren't.
Okay.
Just one more point.
All right.
Yeah, see, I don't like when you say something bad, they get cut off, but just one more point. You know, you think that people won't leave Coventry? A lot of empty houses right now. Trust me. And for the ones who said, okay, we've got to educate our kids, yes, we do. But you know where those kids are going when they go after high school? Out of the state. There's no jobs in the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr.
Chairman? Yes. Okay, I don't know, I saw... Yes, Mr. Florio.
I'm just asking that the superintendent and Sarah McNarelli respond to Mr. Jackson's criticism.
All right, I guess Mrs. Mangiarelli had her hand up, and
yep.
Go ahead.
Just the first thing that I want to clarify is that the $74,000 in administrative raises sits on the town side. So that's actually not going to school administrators. And just to stay on that point, the admin raises for the town is $74,000 plus the new positions totals about $190,000. So while the school department is looking to cut 22 positions, there's a $190,000 add right on the administrative side, which is almost half of the request that we're asking for to get to the 1.8.
I apologize then. I thought the 74 was for you. But let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you agree with me that the population has dropped in students?
Over a 10-year period, the population has dropped. One thing that we need to keep in mind is even as the student population drops, that doesn't mean that we can eliminate costs on a one-to-one ratio. So if we have students leave until you get to the point where you're closing buildings or you can shut down entire programs, you still need a body in front of the class of teachers, whether there's 23 kids in there or there's 20. You still need to turn the lights on whether there's 23 kids in that classroom or 20.
I won't disagree there. But when you lost 698 students since 2011, okay, then you got a problem. You're overstaffed. North Kingston, by the way, has 100 less students than Coventry. They have 19 less staff, teachers.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Jackson.
Thank
you. Yes, Mr. Florio. Microphone.
Okay. I'm asking Mr. Levis to to respond to Mr. Jackson's threat, or Mr. Jackson's perception of the superintendent's threat to cut the junior ROTC.
Mr. Levis doesn't need an invitation. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Mr. Jackson.
Hello. We have a little game between he and I.
In fact, I just choose to take the high road. I understand how. I don't want to get into the misinformation, and we've been around. And what I feel is I spend more time correcting the presentation of your facts. But I have to say, your comment about the ROTC to me is just ludicrous.
Did you or did you not just days ago tell me that 36 students are in ROTC and they're in danger of getting cut? Did you or did you not say that last Thursday night?
I don't want to go back and forth, but what I will say though is that.
Excuse me, Mr. Jackson. Let Mr. Levis talk.
You had indicated we shouldn't be running classes with low numbers. And what I said to you was you should be careful what you ask for because ROTC has some of the lowest numbers. But what I also said, and many people, everybody in this room that works with me knows that I've said at this point in time, I'm not eliminating ROTC. That's what I had said. But again, I don't want to go back and forth with you because I feel like when I started off this presentation, I talked about integrity, trust, loyalty.
Are you saying
what I'm saying is that I'm going to let my reputation stand for itself. I'm not going to debate you. Other people in this community can choose to do that. And just for the public's knowledge, Mr. Jackson's been in to meet with us twice. Ms. Mangiarelli has answered questions and will continue to.
Once.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jackson.
I have a rebuttal.
Okay. And
you're telling me that I'm not telling the truth then? Then how about Ann and who else was at that meeting Thursday night when you threatened to say that? By the way, ROTC is a cheap... Wait a minute, because this is my reputation. I'll direct it to the chair.
Right. Mr. Jackson...
Okay.
Talk to us up here,
okay.
And then we're going to ask for someone else after that, okay?
That's fine, because this is a ludicrous meeting anyway. But, Mr. Levis, what's the cheapest vocational class in Coventry? What's the most expensive? That's losing money. Think about that, people. ROTC is the cheapest, auto is the most expensive.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am, way in the back.
And I am an accountant.
Town Council President,
yes,
Mr.
I
President.
have someone coming down. Did you want to say something first?
I would just reiterate that on Monday evening, I presented the school committee report to the Town Council, and I gave several reasons why you should support us to our full amount of $1.8 million. I keep on hearing the figure of $1.5 million, which is what the town manager recommended. Now, the town manager who recommended that is no longer with us. And number two, I have never, ever heard the reason why he reduced us to 82%. I mean, I don't know if he just pulled this number out of the air, if he had some concrete data or information, but we seem to be hung up on 1.5 million, and I'm not sure where he got this figure, and perhaps you could help us understand that, because it doesn't make any sense to me because we have no data.
I can't answer for the former manager. I know that he went across the board, all departments, all agencies, and tried to bring the number down so that we could get to, the cap. And right now, as everyone knows, we have an interim coming in, and he's going to have his work cut out, and we're going to review again before we meet on May 7th. and I thank you for your comments, but I don't think it's reduced by 82%, if that's what you said. I don't think that's...
to 80%.
Oh, to 8, okay.
It was 82% of the request.
All right, I got you. All right. Go ahead, ma'am.
So just one follow-up question. If the interim
Sorry.
manager is going to be reviewing all this data, may we have an opportunity to meet with him to go over our figures again?
I think he's already introduced himself to Mr. Levis, and I think that might occur as soon as he can. He's not even started yet. But I know he knows that we're in the budget season, and thank you for your interest again and comments. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Lisa Levine, 30 King Street, Coventry. I sent all of the people on the council an email today because I do want to stick to my 3 minutes, so I encourage you to read my email. And it's basically a few thoughts and concerns that I've had, but the reason why I decided to come and speak tonight was because I have to say, without a shadow of a doubt, I am in full support of our superintendent in our schools. I'm sorry if you feel that way, sir, and I'm sure you have every reason that you believe you feel that way. I have 3...
Address us.
I'm sorry.
Thanks.
I have 3 children that have been in the school system, and since Mr. Levis has taken over, they have done exceptionally well. Love the appointments that they've made within the departments, and I fully support the school's budget of 1.8. If we can do it, I would pay the extra money in my tax to do it. Schools are everything, and that will help us exponentially in our town with economic growth and further education for our graduates. So thank you all for your time, and if you could consider, I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else at this time? Anyone else? I know again, we appreciate your coming out. We appreciate the fact that we have to make tough decisions, and it's never easy. That's why we get paid the big bucks. But God, I wish we had a magic wand. And I know that I've lived in the town 39 years, and you know, nobody wants to see taxes go up. Both my wife and I are retired, but we're not alone in this town, so we appreciate it. If there's no other comments of the council or the school committee at this time, then I think next on the agenda is to ask for a motion to adjourn. And do I have one?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All in favor on the council side?
Aye.
Thank you. Mrs. Patnode on the school side.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is that seconded? And I have 7:28. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries.
Okay.
5-0.
Thank you, and have a good evening. And again, thanks for coming out.